If I go off and tell a fan or somebody to kill themselves, regardless of how bad they are to me, I'm still responsible for what I say. I'm responsible for how I react and my response to those people.
I literally want you to effing disappear. You can also see her saying that it would better the world.
What in the hell were you thinking? What the hell did you think this was going to accomplish?
Shiloh also said, just eliminate yourself, no one wants you here.
You don't make other content creators feel maybe that they shouldn't speak up because they don't want to face the wrath either. I mean, there's a familiarity there, and yeah, I just went there.
And I'd say about 80% of those were telling me to kill myself.
You'd figure of all people, you'd know better.
Hey everyone, it's your homeboy, and I got receipts. Now, unfortunately, in today's episode, they're not the type of receipts that I'm happy to present to you, but I'm not just gonna be going around making exceptions for someone just because they're fighting the fight that I'm also fighting. You know what I mean? Basically, if you're familiar with my Edwin's Generation channel, which this is my smaller channel, so I would assume so, I recently made a couple videos on Onision, and recently, this past weekend, Shiloh, who is one of his alleged victims and a woman speaking out against him, just really went off the rails on Twitter, and I spoke out against her actions, what she was doing on Twitter, and a lot of people were very angry at me. Sometimes I feel like Twitter, or maybe just people in general, sometimes don't seem to see the nuance, and it's almost like you're either with us or you're against us. So I just want to make it clear that because I will be focusing in on Shiloh, I want to make it clear that I do support Shiloh. However, some of the things that she said on Twitter in the past couple of days, I can't stand behind, and that should be okay. And it should be okay to kind of criticize someone and kind of give them a nudge, like, hey, this isn't it, like, because I tweeted her and I was very respectful. But before I get into that, I want to start from the bottom. So let's start from the bottom. I know a lot of you guys don't use Twitter. I envy you. You are gonna be retaining your sanity for a lot longer than the rest of us that do use Twitter. Now, with that being said, even if you do use Twitter, this is like a weird mess that is really difficult to keep up with. So I want to try to start from the ground up and really just do my best to summarize it, at least from my perspective, and be as fair as possible.
Because I, as somebody who has a growing social media following, I have to be responsible for what I say publicly.
So this all started when Sarah, the girl who was allegedly groomed by Onision and Kai, made a tweet saying, I went to an FBI office in Michigan and dropped off my laptop and old phones. They'll probably be keeping the laptop for quite a while, so I'll be needing a new one for school. Anything to help is greatly appreciated, but please don't feel obligated. And she shared a link to her Venmo. Now when I saw this Venmo link, I immediately retweeted it because I've had people ask me, like, how can I help her, whatever. So I'm like, okay, let me spread awareness. And I myself donated a big chunk because I promised that I would from the revenue that I've been making on the videos on this topic. I didn't find a problem, but of course it is Twitter, so naturally there are gonna be people that are gonna have a problem with Sarah sharing her Venmo. Like, she's clearly not telling anybody you have to donate, you have to do this, so I really don't get how people are so bothered, because that's the thing, when a random stranger just shares their Venmo, nobody cares, nobody says anything. But God forbid, Sarah, a girl that has gone through so much and works almost every day, has her own apartment, has a cat, has a car loans, all these responsibilities, and she's setting time apart to go to the FBI office and try to, like, give information, she's been seeing lawyers, setting time apart, so like, I don't find it unreasonable to be like, if anybody wants to donate, like, sure. Like, if it bothers you, I just don't understand why people can't just keep scrolling. But anyways, I digress. One of the people that was questioning Sarah was a YouTuber that goes by the name Josh Pescatore, and he had quote tweeted her and asked her several questions like, hey, what about this and that? Whatever happened to you saying that you didn't want money? And asked her several questions. And there was another girl that asked her, like, hey, where in Michigan do you live? I don't know if these people meant any ill intent. I don't want to assume that, but I understand where Sarah's coming from. And what I don't understand is Shiloh's reaction. We spoke shortly after this tweet, and she was very emotionally distraught. She had just gotten off of work, and she saw all this scrutiny. So I completely empathize. I felt a lot of frustration myself. I made my own tweet. So many people have asked how they could help Sarah, and the moment she finally makes a tweet suggesting how they could help, other people that never intended to support her feel the need to shame and interrogate her. Not the move. I know what I wasn't gonna do was start a war with other commentary drama channels, because that would only make the thing bigger. However, That's the exact thing that Shiloh went ahead and did. Okay, Shiloh's initial reaction was, harass one of my girls? I'll come at you forever. No effing limits, period. Try me. To which someone replied, your girls? They are not your property. Now, I understand that this is a misunderstanding, like Shiloh saying, like, these are my girls, like, these are my sisters, you know, kind of like a bond thing, you know, and maybe this girl didn't understand it, but the way that Shiloh reacted is what I found to be a little bit, I don't know, I see, I still feel nervous saying this because, and again, I don't want this to be black and white. I support Shiloh. I just don't support the way she lashes out at people. She blocked this girl, but right before she blocked her, she sent her a private message and she said, you're a bitch. I feel like she could have just blocked her if it bothered her that much or ignored it, but why is that the impression that she wants to give off to people? Let's keep going. These are the messages that Shiloh sent to the drama news YouTuber Josh Pescatore. You want to handle this with someone your own age, or is that you want to be like Greg so badly you actually start doing things he's done? Does harassing a 19-year-old girl who lives alone make you feel big? And Josh says, asking questions isn't harassment, but publicly telling your following to report people is. I don't care about this person, same as I don't care about Greg, but the point stands. I ask questions to expose effery on the internet. Got time to answer a couple from me and my team? Because we got them. And Shiloh says, oh yeah, I got time for your team. Please send me an email contact for your team so I can forward it to mine and Sarah's lawyer. As it stands, you're showing yourself as being very much like Greg. You try to find out the college location of a 19-year-old girl who lives alone. You realize how creepy that is? Send me an email or address, I'll gladly have you served. Or I can find it myself. Peace sign. Then a minute later she said, no time for that? Alrighty, I will find a contact myself, thanks. Josh replied, okay, where do you want me to send me and my team's list of questions? And P.S. There's no tweet of me asking for anything, ma'am. In fact, the tweet you're referring to specifically states after my obvious jokes that, no, can't ask her what school it is. But where should I send the email? My name is Josh Pescatore, I'm an independent reporter on YouTube. Shiloh says, I didn't ask for a list of questions. I asked for an email for my lawyers to send you appropriate paperwork. It is fine, I already have one. Take care, Josh. You won't be much longer. Then Josh sent her a link to a tweet, and Shiloh says, I saw that. Goodbye. I have a contact email for you now. Please no longer contact me. Mine and Sarah's lawyer will be in contact with you. Goodbye. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Shiloh and Sarah don't share a lawyer. So she just lied to this guy to intimidate him. One of the people that made Sarah uncomfortable was a Twitter user that goes by Angela, and she said, anyone know what city in Michigan she's in? I'm sure we can figure it out. I'm also in Michigan and quite familiar with the schools. Now this is really creepy, okay? Like, I understand why Sarah might be creeped out. And I've spoken to this girl, Angela. She showed me a direct message that she sent to Sarah apologizing profusely. And she also showed me that she donated to Sarah to try to make it right and showing that she felt bad. I know that emotions are high, and I spoke to Sarah and she was really upset. So was it creepy? Yes. Was it intentionally creepy? I don't know. Now the way that Shiloh responded to this tweet though, she said, you're really creepy. I need to stop before I come by for a visit. Okay, I get it. Now I get it. You know, like I said, I also was very angry because I had just heard Sarah and I was very angry. But I feel like targeting people like this in a public tweet, I don't think that's the way to use your social media. And again, I don't want to dictate how people should use their social media at all. But like, Shiloh has voluntarily put herself in this like, I am the face, you know? No other victim is like, I am the one, I'm speaking for everybody else. So she has voluntarily placed herself in this position of like, I will be the bigger sister. I will be the motherly figure, you know? She has voluntarily done this for all her girls. After that tweet, Shiloh went ahead and encouraged her followers to report the girl Angela, but she wasn't finished there. So after Shiloh put Angela on blast, she actually also sent her a DM and it said, are you effing stupid? Angela then blocked Shiloh and Shiloh went on to her other account and she said to Angela, I swear to God, I'm already on it, on finding where the F you live. Now let's not forget that Shiloh was calling out this girl Angela for being creepy as to try to find out where Sarah lives, right? That was the impression. And the way that Shiloh decided to respond to this girl Angela was by saying, I'm gonna find out where you live, I'm already on it. That's creepy in itself as well. I just don't understand how Shiloh likes to stoop down to the same level in such an aggressive manner. Yeah, we can all agree that Angela was saying something creepy, but why you have to one-up her, Shiloh? You already quote tweeted her several times and then you also DM her on both of your accounts? At one point, Angela felt threatened and reported some of Shiloh's messages, and one of them reads, I literally want you to effing disappear. You can also see her saying that it would better the world. Shiloh also said, just eliminate yourself, no one wants you here. I gotta say, it's a little bit disappointing that people want to support the cause so bad that they're willing to turn the other cheek when people say things like this. Someone replied, she did not say the words, kill yourself. She said she didn't want that person here as in their business, not here as in here on Earth. Are you seriously telling me that if someone with 35,000 followers decided to publicly threaten you, and then after that, tell their entire following to report your account, and then after that, tell you that they're figuring out where you live, so you block them, and then after that, they tell you to eliminate yourself because the world would be a better place? Are you serious? It's honestly sad. I'm not sure if it's because Shiloh's been a victim of Onisions or if it's because people just fail to see the nuance and that, a victim of someone can also do some pretty bad things. It doesn't have to be black and white. Victims are not perfect. Victims will not do everything that is holy. You should not protect everything that a victim does. That's just not how it should work. And I completely understand making mistakes due to trauma. However, when you double down unapologetically the way Shiloh has, it leads me to believe that she thinks she's right and she's not making any mistakes. And the worst part of it all is that I'm inclined to think that Shiloh does not feel any remorse for her actions. And the reason why I say this is because when I quote tweeted the screenshots of what she said, Repzion quote tweeted my tweet also disavowing her actions. Following that, he also made a Twitter video emphasizing how important it is for us to take responsibility for our own actions. And the way that Shiloh responded to this was by unfollowing Repzion, but not before telling him off. Apparently she told him that he joined the horde against him and to keep her name out of his mouth, all because he denounced Shiloh telling a complete stranger to off themselves. Now, as you can see on Shiloh's Twitter feed, there's a tweet there missing that says it is no longer available because it violated Twitter's rules. So what was the tweet? Well, this is why I call the channel Homeboys Got Receipts, because you know your homeboys got them. The deleted tweet was a quote tweet of someone saying, "How about no on one of your girls? Cause she scammed me out of $50, so go F yourself." Okay, that was kind of aggressive, but Shiloh's quote tweet said, "Prove it, weasel. Maybe don't send money to people if you don't want them to have it. No one scammed you, you're just stupid. F this app, toxic BS. Good job taking all the attention off the actual problem. There is an effing pedophile on YouTube." You don't have to give the attention to this guy. You have a huge following, you have a huge platform, and you're the one amplifying this guy's tweet for some reason. And this is not me saying that you shouldn't respond to this guy. Of course not. This is me just kind of suggesting that if you want to respond to people that upset you, why not just @reply them? Why do you have to put everybody on a quote tweet for everybody to see and everybody to shame, That's what I'm having trouble understanding. Shiloh also tweeted, "I'm definitely starting to lose my patience with catering to an online platform during a legal investigation. Real life is happening outside of this. Onision is still an abuser. Onision is still dangerous." And then she quote tweeted the tweet that violated Twitter's rules. And this is what I mean. Nobody is making her cater to a social media platform. Why is she asking like people are forcing her to tweet when there is a legal investigation, as she so very well puts it? If there's a legal investigation, what is the purpose of her roasting people publicly? Like, she could very well @reply these people. Damn it, I'm gonna come off too harsh, and I'm not trying to be harsh. This is one of the tweets that frustrated me that night, especially after hearing Sarah on the phone, because, the way it's phrased is obviously not in a kind way. Now, people on Twitter were saying that Nick was just asking a valid question. And I mean, yeah, okay, at the core, it is a valid question. He's asking, why do you suddenly need a new laptop? But the phrasing, the word choice, I mean, come on. It's obviously very, like, interrogative, He's like, why do you suddenly need a new laptop, huh? With an influx of donations. Now, I don't think that he meant to hurt Sarah's feelings. However, I do think that he was being rude and douchey. But at least, unlike Shiloh, he can acknowledge that.
Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm an asshole.
There's a lot of things you can call Nick. You can call Nick an asshole. You can call him a ball buster. You could even say that he gets a little aggressive when he is sniffing into something.
But I'm not wearing that badge of honor here.
It's not the kindest method to get a response out of someone, but it definitely can get a response out of someone, and it did get a response out of Shiloh. Please report @DeOrio, releasing private DMs and encouraging a doxing of a 19-year-old girl. #deplatform predators. Just like with the Angela girl, I don't know if the move is to publicly roast someone and tell your entire following to report them. I don't think that is the move. Initially, I wasn't even sure if what she was saying was true or not because she didn't provide any proof of it whatsoever. Not to mention, adding in the #deplatform predators was really confusing to me because it's like, that didn't really seem necessary. She didn't put that hashtag with the Angela girl, so why is she putting that in there, Some people took that as if she's saying, this Nicholas guy is a predator. Deplatform him as well. So when you put that, like, please report, you started off with please report, and you ended with #deplatform predator. Of course, it's not crazy to think that you're implying that this Nicholas guy is a predator. And as far as I could tell, there's no implication of him even being a predator. He's just like a drama YouTuber, you know? Which is why I also think it's so wrong that she went after a drama YouTuber. And guess what? Now there are several videos about this entire issue because you just don't go after a drama YouTuber.
And she does this above the hashtag deplatform predators, which in my opinion clearly tries to paint me as a predator.
And you're gonna say that you want the attention to be on Onision when you're out here blasting a drama YouTuber and trying to get him reported. The tweet right after the Nicholas DeOrio one was also hashtag deplatform predators. So that's why I was also confused, like, wait, she's not trying to say that Nicholas is one, right? I don't know if she tried to say that Nicholas was one or not because it's not clear. She's just repeating the hashtag after that tweet, and then the next tweet right after that is also about Nicholas. She says, "You're gross and you can't hide." Now, first of all, none of these screenshots back up any of the reasons that Shiloh told her following to report Nicholas. The first part of the screenshot shows Nicholas being confused about the whole laptop story, which, honestly, I don't blame him for this because that whole story was a convoluted mess, in part because of Chris Hansen. And I think the part about Sarah asking for money is pretty nitpicky. You guys already know how I feel. I mean, yes, she did tell Billy that she didn't want money, but that was in the context of her not telling her story for financial motives. And she had said that Repzion donated to her without asking. Plus, even if she didn't want money from people a month ago and later realized that she could use some help, are we really crucifying her for changing her mind about something so minuscule? Nicholas also didn't like how Sarah chose Venmo over GoFundMe, which is something he went over in his own video.
This was a bit sketchy on its own right, because a GoFundMe is an organized form of crowdfunding, where you're required to disclose what you're funding for, and you could see how much people have raised toward a specific goal.
Yeah, but it's not like GoFundMe requires you to show a receipt once you hit your goal. And on top of that, GoFundMe does take a fee from your donations, and on top of that, plenty of GoFundMes go over their goal anyways. Isn't that right, Shiloh?
If you slap a PayPal or a Cash App or a Venmo, this is something that always makes me a bit skeptical.
And again, I might be biased because I'm in touch with Sarah and I hear what's going on behind the scenes a little bit more closely here, but I have no reason to feel sketched out by Sarah. And I will call a spade. I think that's the expression. But if I see something sketchy, you know I'll call it out. The only tweet he posted that was actually disparaging towards Sarah out of all these was this one in which he called her an e-beggar and said she was a financially motivated clout chaser. And it's important to note that Sarah wasn't even tagged in this, so it's possible that she didn't even see it. But he did say it, so does the homie still feel this way? I reached out to him with this question and he said, "I wouldn't say I think Sarah's an e-beggar. However, I'm suspicious of the reaction that it caused. Maybe that hit closer to home for Shiloh than it did Sarah. I think I questioned the wrong girl at the end of the day, haha." Now, even though I disagree with the approach that Nicholas took throughout this whole thing, or even the opinion that he had on Sarah, in no way would that make me want to report him or encourage my followers to report him. I believe that's absolutely ridiculous, especially considering that Sarah wasn't even tagged in these tweets. The last tweet from Nicholas was, "Gonna delete the tweets under the post specifically because I got all the screenshots I need and they are opening me up to being mass flagged the longer they stay there." Now the first part sounds a bit kind of sinister, like, I got all this screenshots that I need for my video or something like that. But the second one did hold validity considering how Shiloh called for her followers to report Nick. And by the way, Nicholas's video actually turned out to be pretty good. You know, like I said, the only things that I disagreed on are the whole Venmo/GoFundMe thing and his approach towards Sarah, because I just don't see what she did wrong in this whole situation. And though I don't blame Nicholas for being skeptical, at the same time, Sarah doesn't exactly owe random strangers an explanation for everything that she does. Objectively speaking, from everything that I've picked up at least, Sarah's not proven to be incredulous, so far at least. Shiloh also tweeted, "And since everyone is so butthurt about this crap, F it, hate me," and then she posted her own Venmo, which she has now deleted. I don't know if it was supposed to be like a, "I stand in solidarity with Sarah, donate to me as well." I don't know if, like, I don't know.
She put out a tweet saying that I apparently run smear campaigns on young girls for clicks and drama. Let me remind you, this entire situation is over a simple question that Sarah could have just ignored if she felt uncomfortable answering it.
I gotta agree with Nick here, because he knows that his way of information is informal and he could have been ignored, but Sarah took the bait. Okay, F in the chat. But Shiloh, she turned this all into something bigger, and frankly, I'm gonna be bold and say this, Shiloh owes Sarah an apology. Over the weekend, Sarah was stressed out and blaming herself, saying that it was all her fault for posting the Venmo link in the first place. And I'm like, no, I mean, in theory, I guess the butterfly effect, had she not done that, this might have not happened, but that's just not how it should work. You know, Shiloh blew this up. I mean, Shiloh made a GoFundMe for Sarah. She took it upon herself to create this for her sister and somehow didn't have access to it and started flipping out on some other Twitter user. Like, what is this about? There were a bunch of tweets that morning and it was all really confusing to witness. Anyway, eventually, Shiloh said that Sarah had access to the GoFundMe GoFundMe, and she said that she was leaving Twitter for today and that she was exhausted. But she didn't leave Twitter for today. She came back to Twitter and tweeted at a guy called Bongking and said, "Thanks for blocking me after I sent a screenshot of your DM to someone I thought I could trust." And they went and posted it publicly. "It's cool though, you're welcome for the clout." And this tweet just confused the hell out of me. So I tweeted her, I said, "I'm having trouble understanding. The guy was upset at you for sharing DM exchanges you had with him, so now you're putting him on blast and accusing him of wanting clout? I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just really confused at this. How does this make sense? Like, shouldn't she be mad at the person that leaked the screenshot of this DM instead of the guy that she leaked the DM of? Like, let me put this into perspective. If you and I have a DM and I'm going around taking a screenshot of our DM and I'm giving it to strangers because she gave it to at least 2 people that I've been in touch with, and I find out because a drama channel is like, "Yo, I recognize the icon of your face. What are you doing talking crap about Nicholas?" Because that was what the screenshot was. It would be reasonable for the guy, Bongking, it would be reasonable for you to be upset, no? And I feel like it's unreasonable for her to get upset at him instead of the person that leaked this screenshot. That's what's confusing to me. So when Bongking saw this tweet, obviously he was upset and he confronted Shiloh and he said, "Yo, why are you sharing our DMs?" And then he blocked her because she didn't reply straight away and he just didn't want to deal with it. And then she went on to tweet this. And it's just confusing because it's like, what clout? Why is clout the first thing in your mind, and what clout are you giving him when he never made any public tweets about her at all? I don't know. I don't understand. So like, if I make a public tweet about someone and I'm dissing them, should I say you're welcome for the clout? Also, I gotta be honest with you guys. When I wrote this tweet, I literally contemplated for about an hour, and I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but that's because the way that Shiloh just gave me this vibe of like walking on eggshells. I did not want to anger her. I don't want to say anything wrong. I wanted to be as respectful as possible. I just didn't really understand how she can say you're welcome for the clout for literally being rude to Bongking for no good reason that I could perceive. So I wanted to understand, I was like afraid. I didn't want to get blocked because I had seen other people say that they were being blocked and DMing them rude things. I don't want to disrespect Shiloh. Like, Shiloh is the one person that's never interacted with me whatsoever. It's possible that she doesn't know I exist. I don't want to assume that. But I'm in touch with a lot of the girls. It's just like, I don't know how to interact with them. I'm very cautious. I try to be as respectful as possible because I don't have any ill intent. It took me a while because I really want to understand where she's coming from because of all the investment that I have in this entire story. I want everybody to come out of this in a safe way. I wish I could have had a civil discussion with her, but I didn't get any reply. And it's interesting to me because with almost 300 likes on my tweet, there's no way she didn't see my tweet because she was DMing random people and blocking random people, but she didn't give Edwin any attention? Come on, girl.
You don't make other content creators feel maybe that they shouldn't speak up because they don't want to face the wrath either. I mean, there's a familiarity there. And yeah, I just went there.
He sent a good bit of people after me. I woke up the next morning from him sending out his final goodbye to me online, and I had about 1,500 that I got through, and I'd say about 80% of those were telling me to kill myself.
You'd figure of all people you'd know better, but no.
Naturally, I had people telling me, "Can you back off of Shiloh?" And I'm like, dude, okay. I tried. I literally spent too long trying to phrase that tweet the most careful way possible. I don't mean any ill intent towards Shiloh. And any of her girls can vouch for me. Like, I have spoken to most of them, and I've always been respectful. I've done the most diligent work I can on my videos. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's strange. And then this girl said, "I'm not sure why people are confused. Anyone can slip up like this. But put it this way, you have 2 friends, you send a screenshot of a DM that's just a discussion to your other friends, trusting them. Then they pull a dog move and post it publicly, disrespecting both of them. And that's what I mean. Shiloh should be mad about this friend, except it wasn't a friend. This was a complete stranger. And let's have a look at that DM that she sent to this complete stranger. How many girls does this type of crap need to happen to before people stop protecting bullies, harassers, slander pages, hate pages, groomers, peas, and so on? This guy maybe isn't some of those, but the fact you're supporting him is gross. Don't support me if you're gonna support him. First of all, if you're talking to someone in this manner, how could you feel so comfortable trusting them? I mean, if someone talked to me in this manner, I would likely feel inclined to share this DM and be like, "Yo, everybody, look at the way that this woman is talking to me. This is so uncalled for." Because Cecil never started anything with Shiloh. Shiloh just DM'd Cecil out of nowhere, and this is what she said. It seems a little bit uncalled for. It's just so aggressive. Now, some people were saying that Bongking was trolling her, and the reason why I know that this is false is because Shiloh herself actually went on to show the entire conversation DM that she had ever with Bongking in a now deleted tweet. But homeboy does have the receipt for this one. I screen recorded that because why did she do that? That is so weird because just the day before, she was putting Nicholas on blast for releasing private DMs and encouraging doxing. Meanwhile, she thinks it's a good idea to show an entire screen capture of her entire DM conversation with Bongking. And I got in touch with Bongking and he told me that he was upset because in the DM conversation, he told her where he lived in the town and everything and some private information that he didn't want out in the public. So like, it's really confusing that she gets to lash out at him even though she exposed all this like private info about him. And going back to Shiloh being upset at Bongking, when I feel like she should have been upset at the person leaking the DMs, you know, if you expected it to stay private because you thought you trusted them, shouldn't you be blasting that leaker, right? And I think it's interesting because the person that leaked it was actually a YouTuber that has made some really good Onision videos. But why isn't she being put on blast? Why is Bongking being put on blast when he's simply upset? Furthermore, what Bongking was telling Shiloh was to beware of Nicholas because Nicholas would share private DMs. And that's a reasonable warning because Nicholas did go on to share private DMs that he had with Sarah with Tommy C. So Bongking got caught in the crossfire for what reason? He was warning Shiloh that Nicholas would share DMs and it happened. And for some reason, he's getting called out. Shiloh also tweeted, "At this point, if you aren't here to support the victims and protect them and keep the attention on the problem, which is that Onision is still walking free after grooming and abusing teens, you aren't welcome here. From here on out, anyone out of line gets blocked." Especially coming after everything that she just tweeted. This is what concerns me. That's the kind of tweet that she makes that literally makes me shiver in my boots. You know, I get scared. I'm like, oh, am I wording this right? Because again, this is not the first time that she tweets this kind of thing. She also made a tweet actually apologizing to Nick, and she said, "I'm sorry, Nick, I didn't know that good find comment was out of context." And this is because Nick had said to somebody, good find, when they had found a video of Sarah talking about how Sarah hadn't asked for money, you know, at that point in time. "I still agree you need to be reported for trying to harass a 19-year-old girl and joining in on the show and helping making it bigger when you stated how little you actually knew. For that, I'm not sorry." I feel like I have to go back to the whole, why couldn't she just @reply him, you know? And also, she didn't even tag him in this one. It doesn't feel like a sincere apology. Let's just put it there. He needs to be reported for harassing someone. Like, it wasn't all that bad. Like, some of the tweets that he was saying that Sarah was an e-beggar and stuff like that, Sarah wasn't even tagged in those. So, and to say that Nicholas helped make it bigger, look, I don't disagree that Nicholas was definitely fanning the flame, you know, like making drama out of nothing. I don't disagree with that part. However, you were the one that was helping making it bigger, okay? You're making all these tweets public. You're giving him the attention. Why? She also goes on to say, "I'm sorry, Bongking, for taking your message of warning and trusting it and also warning others with it. Although it was cropped and all that could be seen was your profile picture, I do hope you could stop spreading needless lies." This does not feel like an apology. She's literally excusing everything that she just did. Although you could only see your face. Yeah, but because someone recognized his face, they put him on blast, and it was a drama channel that put him on blast. Also, what needless lies did he spread? He was upset because you shared your entire DM conversation with him. The thing that you called out Nicholas for doing, you did to Bongking. And in those DM conversations, it clearly showed where Bongking resides, and he was not comfortable with that information being out. I don't know how you keep putting yourself on this pedestal. Like, that is not an apology. And even though Shiloh publicly apologized to Bongking on her Twitter, she still felt the need to message him. However, since she was blocked, she logged into her other account and sent him these lovely messages. "Love how my abuse is funny to you and you had to lie about so much." Now for context, somebody asked Bongking, "Okay bro, here's a genuine question. Are you pro-bald Shiloh or anti-bald Shiloh? Sometimes she looks like Tommy Pickles when she's bald and it makes me giggle." And Bongking replied, "Now this is news. Pro in the summer and anti in the winter." Now even though Bongking didn't make the joke, he did play along with it and it is in bad taste. However, it is important to note that this happened after Shiloh had already leaked the messages. So just like people are willing to excuse the way that Shiloh lashes out at people, I feel like it should be excused that he was emotionally angry and just played along with a dumb joke, you know, after finding out that she had leaked private messages between her and him. But of course, in no way am I justifying that interaction. I'm just saying the whole thing is messy to begin with. I mean, Jesus. I just want to clarify everything and add all the context so you guys can make your own judgments. You're actually just a disgusting drunk creep in small-town Ontario who attached himself to a young pretty victim to make his own peen feel big. I hate you, and I hope you rot in hell with Greg, you creep. Peace emoji, laughing emoji, effing weirdo. Go smoke more and collect your OW check, or working your mundane-ass construction job with your old frail-ass creepy self. F you, I have family where you live. Have fun, F-face. Post those, you dumb little mini Onision. Is it that you didn't like I wouldn't reply every time you called me sexy or beautiful, you effing weirdo? You're disgusting and everyone sees it. Keep roping yourself in with all the Greg stands, you bandwagon little. You're so effing lucky my dad isn't alive, you effed up, little prick. Shiloh eventually deleted her Twitter, but one of her last tweets was one that said this. I'll just leave this here for those of you who can't seem to put things into perspective. If someone threatened to release your 19-year-old sister's house and school address to millions of people, what would you do? Ooh, she's being hyperbolic here. Hyperbole? I hate to fact check, but that didn't happen. Snowballing a little bit for dramatic effect, I guess. Before you answer, don't forget, she lives alone, has an online predator watching her every move, lives in another state, police won't help when you call in about doxing. What would you do? Be honest. Peace sign. Not to take away from the whole sister bond, but they've never met in person. And I hope that my sister would not approve of the way that Shiloh speaks to people, for one. This is such an uncomfortable position to be put in for Sarah, you know? It's really not fair. And the whole emphasis of she lives alone, like emphasizing that she's vulnerable, is also really concerning. One of the reasons why I think a video like this is essential is to show that, hey, people that are against Onision aren't just all like, well, we gotta ignore the people that are slipping up. No. We gotta put people in place. We gotta put people in check. You know, like I would do this to anybody else. And I would hope that if I'm slipping up as much as Shiloh just slipped up, I would hope that you guys would put me in check just as well. Because guess what? Shiloh slipping up, now I guarantee you it's gonna be a part of the conversation between Keemstar and Onision.
Definitely talked about the Shiloh.
This is why I don't like doing videos on topics that are just happening, because as they're happening they keep developing and then I take forever to actually upload the videos. So it's currently Wednesday the 26th and I actually filmed most of this video, probably about 70% of it last Friday. The clips in which you see me be more anxious and nervous, that was on Friday. I'm now feeling a little bit more better about this video. I don't know what'll happen, but the reason why it took me so long is because, well, as you saw, things kept developing. And one last thing that developed is that Shiloh messaged me, and it was under the guise of her wanting to speak to me, but I don't think she actually wanted to, because she really just lashed out at me as well, and then just kind of ghosted. So it's like, okay, it was really bizarre, and I'm not exposing the DMs because maybe I misinterpreted it. So just in case I did, I'm still available to talk. I don't know, I would have liked if you treated me more human, but it's whatever. Another last minute update. This video keeps getting delayed because of this, but it's Thursday morning and I woke up to a plethora of messages from Shiloh. And I still don't want to expose the messages, but just to give you an idea, again, she reached out to me under the pretense that she wanted to speak with me. Now, I say pretense because it obviously proved to be untrue. Overall, I sent her 7 messages. She reached out to me first, and she sent me 32 messages throughout this whole thing. She just lashed out at me and condescended me so much. And the one thing that I really disagree with a lot is that she spoke for a lot, like the girls in several instances, and they were lies, you know, because I checked with them and they said it's not true. And here's the thing, even if there was an ounce of truth in these things, like, you don't speak for other people like this. Like, she's trying to make me feel bad by saying, like, yeah, she thinks this about you, and it's like, I don't know, I don't really appreciate try to create the ripple of negative energy, you know? Like, why are you trying to create, like, infighting? I've been covering this story really respectfully, you know? Like, I'm not gonna be put down by that. Like, this is not okay, the way she spoke to me, the way she spoke to other people. This is not okay. I think overall there's a lot of projecting with her. The one message I will read, because she tweeted something similar, was her saying, you really need to stop living in your little dream world before you start having a hard time separating reality from the tech in your hand. Now, I feel like overall, Shiloh, throughout all this, like, lashing out, I think that she's done a lot of projecting, this being one of those messages, because I'm fine, girl. I'm fine. On the other hand, it seems like you're having a hard time, and I hope that you can take a step back. I sincerely hope, like I said in my original tweet when I talked about her, I said, please take a step back you know, take a break from Twitter for sure. The way you speak at people, that's not cool. You speak to people, not at people. Like, this is weird. But yeah, right. Yeah. Anyways, this video was not fun to do. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna get dislike bombed, but I hope that the real ones stick around. And if not, then whatever, it's just my side channel. I was literally ready to start my video on Aaron Carter, and then this whole thing happened. Alright guys, see you in the next video, and thanks for the support. Cheers.